Hello, One Great Earth. My name is Dan. I hope you are well. I am doing okay. Currently, we have a lot to get into today. I went live yesterday. If you did not see that stream, I don't think I've been live on a Sunday before, but since I did not go live on Friday or Saturday, I decided Sunday. I don't want to have too many days in a row where I'm not streaming, or I'm not getting that reflexive habit, and also get behind in the news. That's the one thing is get behind the news, and I got to start closing out tabs. You know, I get to like 40 to 50 tabs of stuff that I want to talk about, stuff that probably needs to be talked about, but it's just just so much to discuss because we have to be so nuanced in the way that we're reporting, the way that we're going over climate news, climate related media. We're not just talking about the latest news, but I am curating the latest climate related news that I could find. And I've been told before that they don't think that there's enough climate news each day to go live, to necessitate going live. I would beg to differ because I could go live 2 hours a day, which sometimes I do, but it's always so much left to be said. Okay. We start with wildfires. This is from City News Everywhere, Vancouver News, Canadian online publication. Wildfire near Fort Nelson, now out of control, says BC Wildfire Service. A holdover wildfire near the town of Fort Nelson is no longer being held and is now listed as out of control. According to the BC Wildfire Service, fire activity is increasing in the North Peace Complex due to weather conditions in the region. We do have an uptick in burning conditions, meaning that we have hotter, drier, and windier conditions we've seen in recent days, which allows the fire behavior to increase, and we do see more significant fire growth under these conditions. So David McKinnon, information officer at the North Peace Complex with the BC Wildfire Service. New fire lines, they're trying to do as much as they can to hold the line. There are 103 ground personnel, which doesn't seem like a lot for... How big is this fire? $70,000 hectares. That's pretty massive. 23 helicopters, 103 ground personnel, and 2 pieces of heavy equipment currently. Sounds like they need... This is probably a complicated fire operation in the middle of nowhere. Hard. And last I heard, most of the smoke jumpers were going to Alaska as they went to a PL5, a planning level 5. A lot of... Take a look at the fire weather. No fire weather for the first time that I can remember, today or tomorrow. There's no fire weather in the west coast or southwest. So hopefully there's no new explosive wildfires in that time. The closest part of the Patry fire to Fort Nelson is still 20 kilometers away, and is downwind of the town as well. The town is secure. That's good. Because they're not looking like it's not all bad. They're holding the fire as much as they can, even though that is now out of control, but they are certain they might have still a handle on it. 23 helicopters making all kinds of drops You know, that escalates, that adds up. But you can't do it at night. You can't run helicopters at night unless you're using night vision. And as far as I know, there was only one pilot that died firefighting, aerial firefighting, just recently, past 2 years, that used to do firefighting with night vision goggles. Night vision glasses, or goggles, yeah, goggles. If I find it, I'll throw it in, but I don't see it immediately. Residents forced to evacuate as French fire continues to burn in Mariposa County. The French fire has burned just over 900 acres in Mariposa County as of Friday night. CAL FIRE officials say containment stands at 20% and that 4 buildings have been destroyed by the fire. While firefighters worked throughout the night to save the historic town of Mariposa, not everyone's home could be saved. My daughter-in-law came rushing in and she said, "Our yard is on fire." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Our house is going to catch on fire," recalled Hans Layer. She was forced to evacuate Thursday with just the clothes on her back and a diaper bag for her 10-month-old granddaughter. She says by the time she got her dogs and granddaughter in the car, her back porch caught fire. "I get a knock on the door from my landlord. He lives across the street and said, 'There's a fire, we're leaving,'" recalls Jennifer Robin, who also evacuated from the fire. That's when Robin saw the thick black smoke from the French fire. With the fire close, Robin knew she had to go and grabbed as much stuff as she could. When you're in a crisis, your brain goes blank. So all I could think about was my pets. I got my pets, I got my indigenous jewelry, I got a few days of clothes. I couldn't think of documents, and you blank, said Robin. And she drove down to evacuate. Helicopters flew over, making drops over the fire. Crews were also on the side of the road, stopping the flames. I'm watching the world burn right in front of me, or to my right. Testing. Just making sure. Challenges still lie ahead, even though crews continue to work the French fire. Crews are building contingency lines, but still it's up in the air about where this fire actually proceeds. 900 acres, 20% containment. Mariposa County, the French fire. From Colorado News, Oak Ridge wildfire grows to 1,310 acres, 69% contained. Trails and roads in the San Carlos Ranger District of the Pike and San Isabel National Forest are closed. The Oak Ridge wildfire, now burning on 1,310 acres of U.S. Forest Service land in Pueblo County, was 69% contained Monday, according to fire officials. Firefighters increased the containment line over the weekend as the fire's acreage grew, reaching 69% containment as of Monday morning, according to a Facebook update by Oak Ridge fire officials. On Saturday morning, the fire sparked by lightning on June 22nd was 1,193 acres and 50% contained, double the 25% containment reached on Thursday. Firefighters on Saturday worked to contain the southeastern corner of the fire and protect property in Buella in the Middle Creek watershed using drip torches and aerial ignition. By Sunday morning, the fire was burning on 1,240 acres, and the containment line was 59%, fire officials said in a Sunday update. Crews will continue to pull brush back from the fire line, reposition berms, soil piles along the outside edge of the fire, and place water bars to divert water and reduce the risk of erosion, fire officials said. Let's take a look, see if Colorado, any cameras open? Nope. There's a fire there in Mount Lincoln. Doesn't look too bad. Montana, Nevada. North Bay. What? Yu-Gi-Oh! That is a monster fire. Hell on Earth right there, that's massive. I don't know what fire this actually is, unfortunately. Huge plumes. This is in California. I can see it's just north, far west of Santa Barbara, or north of Naples, California. Huge. Big starts, big fire, lots of smoke, very thick, black, and it's backing up. You know what that means, where the smoke is getting to the point that it can't penetrate this giant wall any further, and it's coming back up and around. Because, nothing thrives under smoke. Nothing. That is a beast of a fire. A lot of like smog or smoke in these areas. Another fire. This one is Big John. Been a pretty good start there, looking rather dark with white smoke blending. Okay, I believe I saw a drop. Yep. It was close. Here's your flame retardant drop. Incredible. Don't know what's doing the drop, if it's a helicopter or triplane. Can't tell if that's the plane. Looks like the plane here. This gets dropped. Oh, all day looking at wildfires in California with all these cameras. But a lot of these areas look like they are ooh. This is the other side of that fire that we were looking at north of Naples, far east of Los Alamos. Big fire. Big white puffs of smoke. This is the other side of that fire we were just looking at a minute ago. Let's do it like this. Got some breaking shots here of the fire damage. You can see the ash. Trees damage here. Ladder fell here. Bushes, the whole cape is just extinguished. Another very large start, it seems. This is a monster here. Absolute monster. 2 hours, 1 hour. Absolute beast. Completely different fire than the one we're looking at before. What's this do to our carbon budget? Does it even matter a count? Does it even factor in California's or United States? Whoever would pick up the tab of this carbon. Not too radical of an idea, but having a state have to be responsible for the carbon tax, not carbon tax, I'm sorry. Carbon budget, yeah, their carbon budget. States have an annual budget of carbon they're allowed to put into the air. Wildfires cause that budget to go over. These are just huge fires that we're seeing here. None of these are just, some of them, a couple were pretty small starts, but these we're seeing are just gone. These fires are just going. Yeah. With as many cameras as there are here, chances of seeing a wildfire are great. Fort Jones. Last moved 10 hours ago. It's probably still on a fire. Like smoke. Yep. Lightning strike that caused wildfire. Lightning strike caused wildfire that killed 2 people in New Mexico. Ruidoso, New Mexico. Authorities in New Mexico say a lightning strike caused the larger of 2 wildfires that killed at least 2 people and destroyed or damaged more than 1,400 structures. First reported on June 17th on the Mescalero Apache Reservation. The South Fork fire forced the evacuation of the village of Ruidoso. Now 87% contained, the wildfire burned more than 27 square miles, and parts of the village were evacuated again because of the recent flash floods. 8 agencies, including the FBI, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and Bureau of Land Management, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, investigated the fire. Investigators said the fire's point of origin with evidence and data pointed to a lightning strike as the cause. Meanwhile, the FBI is offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for starting the nearby Salt Fire. That wildfire burned more than 12 square miles and was 84% contained on July 3rd. Some pretty big fires. Ruidoso was a huge evacuation. Terrible fire that fell upon that city. Lots of structures were damaged and engulfed in fire. I mean, it was a firestorm that hit Ruidoso. Definitely. A wave of fire. The air turns 700 degrees Fahrenheit. There's no oxygen. There's no trying to beat this heat when it comes to a firestorm. No chance of survival. Chances of survival for human being, or most life, are very low when caught in a raging wildfire. Smoke alone would cause most creatures to fall, because nothing thrives under smoke. Nothing. Everything chokes. Everything dies under smoke. And putting out this amount of smoke everywhere in the atmosphere kills birds, makes them sick. Also, our insect population in the different layers of our atmosphere, where insects would find themselves flying across the Atlantic, flying from state to state, catching these updrafts, these thermal updrafts that takes them where they need to go. Bugs are a lot more robust and stranger than ever thought possible. There is a layer of atmosphere where it's just bug after bug. And we spray pesticides and stuff in the atmosphere and we kill this without knowing how beneficial it is for the birds to be able to eat while they fly. Instead, we kill all of it. Birds die. Been spraying toxic poisons for so long now, it's amazing that so much stuff is still alive, but it's not in our... We need to be proactive when it comes to chemical munitions and bombs that we've dumped throughout the wars. After the wars were done, we just dropped everything overboard without a second thought. We thought the ocean was huge and endless. Instead, we're killing it. We're going to see this year the effects of climate change, or enhancing and throttling at the same time. Storms that were already going to come around. Instead, they're 5 times worse, 10 times worse. Just 3 inches of rain more. These things are possible and probable and have been going on. Climate change is a problem, and it's complicated because it affects so much. And I don't think there's a way to go back. I don't think there's a way to solve this problem. Wildfires are a new nightmare in our reality. And hearing about forest fires that have burned in the tens of thousands of acres, that's just insane. People live on 1/8 of an acre or something like that. You know, like, these are just insane numbers that are hard to grasp for people that normally don't have to worry about more than just their backyard. It's a luxury. I don't know. There's 91,000 chickens, but it's called the Animal Reader. I'm pretty sure it's fine. Bird flu outbreak in Germany, authorities said on Tuesday. The virus was detected in Bad Memphium. $91,000. High density of chicken farms. This in total. There's been over 1.5 million animals that have been culled, and 317 poultry farms in Germany. That's huge. This is, which influenza virus is this? Does it not say? Or is it just badly translated? Oh, I don't believe it says. It doesn't like H5, you know, H7. It doesn't say which strain. So let's see, Germany. H5N8, so it's an H5 strain. H5N1 is what we've been dealing with. 8 years ago. Okay, so today, this poultry farm is H7N5. That shares with poultry farms in Australia. I don't believe any poultry farms in America, in the United States, have, or just North America in general, have had poultry farms testing positive for H7. It's always been H5 as long as I can remember. So H7N5, rare influenza strain, and they had to call 77,000 altogether. Some 1.5 million chickens had to be culled. Back-to-back shark attacks leave 4 people injured in Texas and Florida. So it's rare for shark attacks to happen, and just have 4 back-to-back in Texas and Florida is worth noting. Everybody seems to be fine. The 2 bite victims were taken to the hospital in Brownsville for treatment, one of them being flown out elsewhere for further treatment. The game warden, Captain Chris Doughty, told the Associated Press that authorities believe a single shark about 6 feet long was involved in all 4 incidents based on information from witnesses and social media pages. Incredible. Shark attacks being rare, but more rare is a shark responsible for multiple attacks. You just don't hear about it. The last shark attack reported in the area was 5 years ago. Yeah, sharks looking for food is what they always say. But don't you think they just take a bite out of everything because they want to kill? Not that they're looking for food. They're a dominant apex predator. They only know kill. So it's not as if that you're not food or you are food. It's going to take a bite out of you regardless. You got to punch it in the nose or something to make it feel weird. But punching it underwater is probably a lot harder, especially a shark. Same time as coming at you, punch it in the face. Predator is prey doesn't punch it in its face. Still, shark is fast and very agile. You're not really going to strike it in the face if it wants to get you. It's going to go around it. It's going to keep trying. Especially it attacked 4 people in a short amount of time. This is in China, Hongshuang, and East China in full efforts on disaster relief, relocating 10,900 residents. Popular tourism city in East China, Anhui province, has activated its emergency level 2 response for flood control, as the city has been hit by heavy rain since Tuesday, with more than 10,900 people being relocated urgently, according to Anhui emergency management authorities on Friday. There was 2,400 stranded residents, 900 emergency rescue teams. This is huge. The water has started to recede and the city is starting to recover. Old pipes cause Texas cities to lose tens of billions of gallons of water each year. It's from the Texas Tribune. Juan Salinas II. Lost water cost the city millions and heightens the state's water supply challenges. Texas's most populous city lost roughly 88 billion gallons of water last year because of aging water infrastructure and extreme heat, costing them millions of dollars and straining the state's water supply, according to self-reported water loss audits. Let's see, okay. Houston, 31.8 billion gallons. San Antonio, 19.5 billion gallons. Dallas, 17.6 billion gallons. Austin, 7.1 billion gallons. Fort Worth, 5.9 billion gallons. El Paso, 4.8 billion gallons. Other water agencies must do audits only every 5 years unless a city has over 3,300 connections or receives money from the board. Sounds strange. Houston Public Works blames the region's long drought from June 20, 2022 to December last year for the increase. Droughts cause clay and soil to dry up and shrink, stressing older water lines and making them more likely to break and leak. Combined with aging infrastructure, it's led to a significant increase in water leaks across the city. Aging infrastructure isn't only a Houston problem. Dallas officials said they expected a roughly 4% increase in water loss in 2023. They saw a double-digit increase instead. The agency now has $1 billion to invest in projects that address various issues from water loss and quality to acquiring new water sources and addressing Texas's deteriorating pipes. It is the largest investment in water infrastructure by state lawmakers since 2013. Walker calls the $1 billion a drop in the bucket. An Austin think tank expects $150 billion over the next 50 years on water infrastructure. In San Antonio, the San Antonio water system isn't waiting for the state to come and tackle the problem for us. The city lost around 19 billion gallons of water in 2023 and has seen an increase over the last 5 years. We're in a state that doesn't even fund public education, so good luck to us getting some money from the state on these issues. Yeah, Texas is screwed. The city of Austin lost around 7 billion gallons of water in 2023. This is insane. This is a known issue, a known problem. Sure. This isn't something that can easily be swept under the rug. So many cities are losing billions of gallons of water. At least 89 migrants dead after boat capsizes off Mauritania, state news agency says. Dangerous Atlantic Ocean route is gaining popularity because of its increased vigilance by authorities in the Mediterranean. Nearly 90 migrants bound for Europe died and dozens more are missing after their boat capsized off the coast.
Mauritania.
The Mauritanian Coast Guard recovered the bodies of 89 people aboard a large traditional fishing boat that capsized on Monday, July 1st on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, about 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles from the country's southwest city of Diango, state news agency said. The agency quoted survivors saying the boat had set sail from the border of Senegal and Gambia with 170 passengers on board, bringing the number of missing to 72. A senior local government official gave AFP similar information on condition of anonymity. The Coast Guard rescued 9 people, including a 5-year-old girl, the state news agency said. The Atlantic route is particularly dangerous due to strong currents, with migrants traveling in overloaded, often unseaworthy boats without enough drinking water. However, it has grown in popularity due to increased vigilance in the Mediterranean. The number of migrants landing at Spain's Canary Islands in 2023 more than doubled in 1 year to a record 39,910, according to the Spanish government. Off the coast of North Africa, Spain's Canary Islands lie 100 kilometers away at the closest point, but many boats, often long wooden vessels known as pirogues, leave from much further away, setting sail from Morocco, Western Sahara, Mauritania, Gambia, and Senegal. More than 5,000 migrants died while trying to reach Spain by sea in the first 5 months of this year, or the equivalent of 33 deaths per day, according to Caminando Fronteras, a Spanish charity. This is the highest daily number of deaths since it began collating figures in 2007, and the vast majority were on the Atlantic route. I thank you so much for joining me here. I would like to go over my Patreon for a moment. There is a free membership, and the link is in the description. I'd appreciate it greatly if you were to click free membership at the minimum. I would like to thank my headliners, John, Ashley, Nishan, and Sarah. Thank you so much for your support. I hope this channel continues to grow. Again, that's patreon.com/OneGreatEarth. Description has the link to the Patreon. World breaches critical 1.5 degrees Celsius warming threshold 12 months in a row. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service said June was the hottest on record, in the 12th month in a row of temperatures 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels. It's from Victoria Seabrook, Sky News. The world has baked under temperatures above a critical warming benchmark every month for a year, according to new data. The climate change has already unleashed devastating consequences around the world this year, with people dying from heat waves in India, Saudi Arabia, Gaza, and the United States, and tourists in Greece evacuated amid wildfires. Every month since July 2023, 12 months in a row, has seen an average surface air temperature of 1.5 degrees Celsius hotter than the fossil fuel era, data from the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service confirmed today. Hundreds of people are dying a day in Karachi, Pakistan, due to heat stroke, extreme heat. Limiting warming to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels before we started burning fossil fuels at scale is seen as critical to fend off as more serious impacts of climate change and is a target enshrined in the landmark Paris Agreement. But over the last 12 months, the global average temperature has been 1.64 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial average and 0.76 Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average, Copernicus found. The findings do not mean the world has permanently breached that warming threshold, or that leaders have definitely already failed to meet their Paris Agreement promise, as the temperatures may lower once the warming El Nino weather phenomenon subsides. But they are highlight continuing changes to the planet's climate, Copernicus director said. Carlo said, "This is more than a statistical oddity. It highlights a large and continuing shift in our climate. It is inevitable temperature records will be broken over and over unless we stop adding greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and the oceans," he said. Bella O'Dowd, WWF's head of climate policy, said the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature bench breach is not a milestone towards an inevitable destination, but a wake-up call for the new government. Acting now on climate and nature can unlock benefits for people, the economy, and the planet, she said. It comes as 130 million people face a long-running heat wave in the United States, which has shattered records with dangerously high temperatures. Dr. Otto, a climate scientist at Imperial College London's Grantham Institute, said there was a high chance 2024 would outrank 2023 as the hottest year on record. El Nino is a naturally occurring phenomenon that will always come and go. We can't stop El Nino, but we can stop burning oil, gas, and coal, she said. Copernicus's monthly release of data, also confirmed last month, was the hottest June on record, the 13th consecutive month ranked as the planet's hottest since records began. Because the figure is an average of temperatures all around the world, it smooths out extremes, meaning some places could still have felt cool. In Europe in June, for example, temperatures were above average in parts of Turkey, but at or below average in the west of the continent. from CBC. Coral reefs are vital lines of defense against hurricanes, but their future is in doubt. Nature's seawalls help protect vulnerable coastlines against erosion and flooding. This is a image of bleached coral reef, bone white. As it loses its algae, its food source, turns bone white and dies. The hurricane season is off to a roaring start, with Beryl the earliest Category 5 storm ever to form in the Atlantic Ocean. Beryl has since been downgraded to a Category 4, yet as of Wednesday it was still expected to bring life-threatening winds and storm surge to Jamaica. Typically, coral reefs serve as a critical form of natural coastal protection against such powerful storms. The warmer ocean waters are putting their future in doubt, even as hurricanes are predicted to become more powerful. When water gets too hot, coral, which are living creatures, bleach and sometimes die. Because coral bleaching and reef is heat stroke in a human being. So it's heat stroke. How coral reefs protect the coastline. Jennifer Koss, who studies coral reef preservation, described a healthy coral reef as nature's seawall. You've got this massive bulwark that essentially acts like a big source of friction and slows waves down, busts them up, and prevents a lot of that energy from reaching the shore, eroding the shore, and damaging the infrastructure behind it, said Koss, director of the Coral Reef Conservation Program at the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. Research suggests coral reefs can potentially reduce wave energy by up to 97%. For that reason, they are flat out essential in protecting low-lying islands from damage. Michael Risk, Professor Emeritus of Earth, Environment and Society at McMaster University, said in an email. Studies have also shown coral reefs have the capacity for regrowth if they are damaged during storms and for growing upward to protect against rising sea levels. Mass bleaching. But coral reefs are struggling to deal with unprecedented ocean heat. Nearly all of the coral reefs in the Atlantic off the Florida coast and in the Caribbean have been hit with severe losses. NOAA confirmed a global mass bleaching event in April. All the red here is that you see is coral bleaching. Now this makes me nervous here. Up in the Northeast, where they've been largely spared of coral reef bleaching, is starting to happen in the Northeast United States, in the waters just off the coast. Also, the Gulf of Mexico seeing a rise. And bleaching warnings. Risk said warm ocean temperatures and land-based pollution put coral reefs' future in doubt. He said after corals die, the structure remains in place for a decade at most. Researchers are working to prevent bleaching, in some cases caused by physically shading the water above coral reefs. Koss said a hurricane or tropical storm could also help cool the water and ease pressure on coral reefs, provided the storm isn't too powerful and doesn't hit them directly. As a conservationist, it is really kind of crazy to be praying for some sort of storm event or prolonged cloud exposure in order to break up the impacts of a bleaching event. Fueled by record warm waters, this year's hurricane season, which runs from June 1st to November 30th, is forecast to be busier than usual. Coral bleachings devastate Bali reefs as sea temperatures rise. Indonesian conservation Nyoman Sugiarto has been working for 16 years to preserve coral on the reefs of Bali, but the frequency of mass coral bleaching, he says, is now devastating. 90% of the corals Sugiarto had nurtured on the reefs near his village in Bondalem and northern shore of Bali lost their color last December. It was all white. We were shocked, and of course it negatively affected the coral we planted. It is not just the natural ones. When Sugiarto began coral conservation projects in 2008, he was told that coral could retain the living algae, which gives it color, for 10 to 20 years. Yet the coral reefs off Bondalem were bleached in less than 10 years, he says, blaming warming sea temperatures triggered by climate change. Coral bleaching occurs when coral expels the colorful algae living in its tissues. Without the algae, the coral becomes pale and vulnerable to starvation, disease, or death. In April, the United States National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, said more than 54% of the reef areas and the world oceans are experiencing bleaching level heat stress, the fourth global bleaching event in the last 3 decades. Indonesia has roughly 5.1 million hectares of coral reefs and accounts for 18% of the world's total, data from the country's tourism ministry showed. Coral bleaching in Bali in late 2023 was mainly caused by rising sea temperatures caused by the El Nino phenomenon that hit Indonesia, said Marvin Welly, a marine conservation advisor at the Coral Triangle Center. Indonesia experienced the most severe dry season last year since 2019 due to the El Nino. While Indonesia's corals are more resilient and tend to recover faster, Marvin said it will not be enough to withstand the rising ocean temperature. It's predicted that the coral bleaching will occur more often, between 1 or 2 years with the current temperature, he said, quoting the latest research by the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority and the Australian Institute of Marine Science. However, Sugiarto says he is determined to continue his campaign to conserve corals and is advocating coral conservation to younger Indonesians and seeking funds to establish a village community to monitor illegal fishing. We feel that we have the obligation to guard the sustainability of underwater life, especially corals. Okay. Currently looking for the next story, but I'm not sure which story I'll be doing next. Disastrous. Fruit and vegetable crops must be a wake-up call for your United Kingdom, says farmers. Next government urged to have a proper plan for food security as UK's climate becomes more unpredictable. Brussels sprouts being harvested in a flooded field near Boston, Lincolnshire. UK fruit and vegetable production has plummeted as farms have been hit by extreme weather. The country suffered the wettest 18 months since record began across the 2023-2024 growing year, leaving soil waterlogged and some farms totally underwater. The impact on harvests has been disastrous. Data from the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs shows that year-on-year vegetable yields decreased by 4.9% to 2.2 million tons in 2023, and production volumes of fruit decreased by 12% to 585,000 tons. Scientists say that climate breakdown caused by the burning of fossil fuels is likely to bring more extreme weather to the UK, including more frequent floods and droughts. Farmers said that they were not able to plant due to the wet weather, and this is borne out in the statistics. The growing area of vegetables was down, falling by 6.5% to 101,000 hectares. A dry early summer in 2023 also did not help, as those who could not irrigate found it hard to plant. Wet weather in the autumn and winter meant that the planted area of decreased by 3.1%. 23. Farmers said the next government needed a proper plan for food security as the UK's climate becomes less predictable with more extreme weather hitting farms. The UK government recently published its first official food security index, which described food security as broadly stable and facing longer-term risks from climate change. Climate change is from the conversation. Climate change threatens to cause synchronized harvest failures across the globe, with implications for Australia's food security. New research shows scientists have underestimated the climate risk to agricultural and global food production. Blind spots in climate models meant high impact but deeply uncertain hazards were ignored. But now the threat of synchronized harvest failures have been revealed. We cannot ignore the prospect of global famine. Climate change models for North America and Europe had previously suggested global warming would increase crop yields in the short term. Those regional increases were expected to buffer losses elsewhere in global food supply. But new evidence suggests climate-related changes to fast-flowing winds in the upper atmosphere, the jet stream, could trigger simultaneous extreme weather events in multiple locations with serious implications for global food security. Building resilience to shocks. Unfortunately, the global food system is not resilient to shocks at the moment. Only a few countries such as Australia, the United States, Canada, Russia, and those in the European Union produce large food surpluses for international trade. Many other countries are dependent on imports for food security. So if production declines rapidly and simultaneously across big exporting countries, supply will decrease and prices will increase. Many more people will struggle to afford food. The prospect of such synchronized harvest failures across major crop producing regions emerges during Northern Hemisphere summers, featuring meandering jet streams. When the path of these fast-flowing winds in the upper atmosphere shifts in a certain way, the likelihood of extreme events such as droughts or floods increases. The researchers studied 5 key crop regions that account for a large part of global maize and wheat production. They compared historical events and weather to modeling. Yield losses were mostly underestimated in standard climate models, exposing high-impact blind spots. They conclude that their research manifests the urgency of rapid emissions reductions, lest climate change, climate extremes, and their complex interactions become unmanageable. The global poor do not have the buying power to influence market demand and increase food supply for their benefit. As they face hardship, many are becoming angry, sparking conflict and undermining food security further. Huge implications for Australia. Prior to the COVID pandemic, the Australian Bureau of Agricultural and Resource Economics was working the nation's food security. But it isn't that simple. Even though there has been a lot of food available across Australia since early 2020, access has declined. Local food insecurity increased as the pandemic prior Australian agriculture is highly exposed to climate change because rainfall and temperatures are so strongly influenced by El Nino. The drying phase of the El Nino Southern Oscillation is expected to strengthen with climate change. As atmospheric circulation changes, global weather patterns are shifting towards the poles. This is partly why early modeling of climate change in the cold-constrained agricultural systems in North America projected production would increase with global warming, but not anymore. In Australia, modeling has rarely suggested the country would benefit from climate change. The Murray-Darling Basin, the heart of the nation's food bowl, is expected to suffer warming, drying, reduced rainfall, and more extreme events. Australia could be in a bad way, as most countries are experiencing crop shocks. We're starting to see more and more crop failures, synchronized crop failures due to climate change. Can't be ignored when people start going hungry. Discovery in South Africa. Oldest inhabited termite mound dating back 34,000 years in the arid expanses of Namaqualand, South Africa. A significant discovery has been made. Termite mounds, still bustling with life, that have stood the test of time for an astonishing 34,000 years. These mounds, locally named Uwelchius, Uwelchies, no idea, not only demonstrate the resilience of these industrious insects, but also serve as a crucial tool for understanding the prehistoric climate of the region, a key piece in the puzzle of Earth's history. That's wild. Rigorous samples of radiocarbon dating, which brought some of the mounds as old as 34,000 years. If you watch Wild Earth, you've probably seen a termite mound or two. And you see that they are bustling with life, as even hyenas use termite mounds for their young to store them in. It's pretty incredible how much life is given by these enormous structures, these superstructures. Because how far deep they go, that's the mystery, is how much it's been built underneath. Because what we're looking at is only the superstructure above ground. Below it's something alien.
This mound is the fortress for Macrotermes termites. Colony, million strong. A termite's mound is just the hub of an underground city, 6 kilometers of foraging tunnels. Termites now face the flooding of their colony. They beat a hasty retreat to the safety of their mound as their tunnels start to flood and collapse. But in doing so, something miraculous happens. The tunnels seal themselves up. This blocks the flood's underground advance and forces the water back to the surface. Back inside the mound, the termites are safe. Incredibly, the flood provides just the opportunity they need. Their fragile castle, made of sand, requires constant maintenance and rebuilding. But the soil, now softened by floodwater, is easy to transport to damaged parts of the mound. Gradually, thousands of termites reconstruct their fortress. Repairing these mounds isn't just good for the termites. These structures help to create something vital for all the Delta's wildlife. Its islands. And it all starts like this. Dung, ready-made fertilizer laden with fruits and seeds. Floodwater soaks up the dry side slopes of the mound, create the perfect bedding for new plants. Gradually, season by season, termite mounds become home to more and more plants. As they grow, they attract more animals, which in turn bring with them the seeds to grow even more plants. Sycamore fig, fan palm, marula. Though the termite mounds are barely recognizable under their lush green canopies. As it floods, raised areas around termite mounds become islands. They provide food, shelter, and a refuge throughout the year for everything from elephants to baboons and birds. In the Delta, once featureless desert, there are now around 150,000 such islands.
become foul and hot. Shafts that go down 6 feet, 31 degrees centigrade.
Oh my
But the
god.
colony has a solution. It's an architectural one. This, 6 feet beneath the surface of the earth, is
Oh my
the
God.
cellar of the colony. Its floor is studded with shafts that go down 14 feet down to the water table, where the worker termites can gather moist mud to carry on their building. And its ceiling is a great plate which carries the entire weight of the colony. But on its underside is what I think is really the most remarkable structure I've ever seen. Lines of concentric veins. They are made of mud and they absorb moisture from the colony above. And as it evaporates, it leaves this incrustation of white salt on them. But more important, as it evaporates, it cools, so that this, the cellar, is much the coolest part of the colony.
Whoa.
And it's this that drives the air conditioning. The air, continuously heated by all the activity in the middle of the building, rises up into the upper stories. But this basement, thanks to these veins, is many degrees colder. And it draws down the stale, warm air from the colony above, down long chimneys which go right round the edge of the cellar. As it does so, there's a seepage of gas through porous dimples in the walls. Oxygen flows in and carbon dioxide out, so that the mixture approximates to fresh air. So these spires and turrets are key elements in an air conditioning system of a near perfect mansion that has stout walls to protect its inhabitants from the elements and from their enemies, deep dungeons where they can gather moisture, space inside for barns where they can store their food, and gardens where they can grow their crops. And yet all this was built by tiny insects with minute brains working in total cooperation in the complete darkness. We might like to think that we are the most accomplished architects that the world has ever seen, but if this was built in human terms with every worker termite the size of me, then it would stand a mile high. I haven't done that yet.
Incredible.
The colony that I've ever seen. But on its underside is what I think is really the most remarkable structure I've ever seen. Lines of concentric veins. They are made of mud and they absorb moisture.
Absolutely amazing.